Did you know that Jesus teaches on fasting? Out of his own mouth, he tells us at the Sermon on the Mount about fasting. And I want to talk about that entire scripture. This is Red Letters, a series where we are reading the red letters from the Bible to get to know Jesus better and to know how to uphold his commandments. Today we are in Matthew chapter 23, verse 16. And the scripture says, "When you fast, do not look somber, as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others that they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Now let's go into the study Bible and dive into that a little more, and then we'll talk some more about fasting. Fasting is going without food in order to spend time in prayer. It is noble and difficult. It gives us time to pray, teaches self-discipline, reminds us that we can live with a lot less, and helps us appreciate God's gifts. Jesus was not condemning fasting, but hypocrisy. Fasting in order to gain public approval. Fasting was mandatory for the Jewish people once a year, on the Day of Atonement. The Pharisees voluntarily fasted twice a week to impress the people with their holiness. Jesus commended acts of self-sacrifice done quietly and sincerely. He wanted people to adopt spiritual disciplines for the right reasons, not from selfish desire, for praise. So the reason Jesus taught that right then is he was trying to make an example out of the religious leaders who were just fasting for the approval of others, so people would look at them with sympathy and pay them more money and things of that nature. That's why Jesus had to teach this lesson when he taught about it. But I want to tell you about fasting, because fasting is in the Bible so much, so we know it's important. But as he just said here, fasting is only important if you're doing it for the right reasons. If you're doing it for selfish and self reasons, then fasting is not going to get you anywhere. That's why it's really important to understand this scripture and to understand fasting in itself. When you read the Bible, you realize fasting is important and it's used a lot. Jesus himself fasted, and that shows us that it's important for us to do that as well. But fasting is not easy. Not in this day and age where we have fast food and food all around us on every corner. People don't even have to work hard for food anymore, when back in the day they had to prepare. But today we just go through a drive-through window when we're hungry. So in a sense, it's kind of harder in our day and age because we have ready available food. But that just shows even more obedience to fasting. So there's different reasons why people would fast. The main reason is obviously to give up your food so that your body and your flesh is weakened. Because when we are weakened in our flesh, we are stronger in our spirit. When you are depriving yourself of food, you are learning a self-discipline, and you are connecting more with God in spirit than you are in your flesh. So that is the main reason for fasting, is to connect more in the spirit and less in the flesh. But there was a lot of other reasons for fasting in the Bible as well. When Jesus was tempted by the devil in the wilderness, he had to fast. He had to be weakened in his flesh. And so that shows us an example that we need to be spiritually strong, and fasting can help us do that. Another reason people would fast a lot in the Bible is for mourning. When they lost someone they loved, they would show sorrow so deep that they would fast. They wouldn't eat for a while, because while they were fasting, they would be deep in prayer. So they would be mourning and connecting with God and really grieving in a beautiful way by giving up food. Another theory people have is that fasting helps cleanse your body. It's been proven scientifically that if you are fasting, it does something to your body that helps almost renew it. So depending on how long that fast is, there's an intermittent fasting. People even do a Daniel fast nowadays. You can look that up if you don't know what it is. And then some people go all out and they fast for however long they desire to. I try to fast on Saturdays because Saturday is my personal Sabbath. And I fast before baptism events. But a lot of times that's just so that I can be so in my spirit that I'm not thinking about my flesh at all. That it's just Jesus using my hands and feet in those moments. So fasting has a lot of benefits for you, spiritually, physically, mentally. There's a lot of benefits there if you are doing it for the right reasons. If you're not doing it for any of the reasons we just spoke of, and you're not truly trying to connect with God in those fasting moments, there's really no point in you trying to starve yourself. There's no point to go without food unless you are doing it in a way that glorifies and honors God and connects you with Him. So make sure if you decide to fast, it is for the right reasons and not the wrong ones as he just taught about. I hope that this helps somebody today in fasting. If you have never fasted before, please don't go and try to make a crazy goal and try to obtain it, because that usually doesn't work. I always recommend, if you were first starting a fast, try 12 hours or 24 hours. It seems like little, but it's a lot. When you are used to satisfying all of your hunger needs, it's a lot to go without food. And it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes patience, and you build yourself up. So try small and see how you do with it. Make sure that you are praying, that you are reading your scripture, that you are deeply trying to connect in these times of fasting, and it will be so beneficial. I hope you liked this lesson, and I will see you next week with another episode of Red Letters.